All right, let's look at some questions that involve what we just talked about with circles. And I'm focusing mostly on arc and arc length and chords and so on. But let's try question 17. This would be a very classic sort of example of a GRE circle problem. If the radius of the circle, starting at center C, is 12, what's the area? Well, again, let's just think about this for a minute, like what we talked about. Hopefully this will be relatively fast. We know that if the center of the circle to the radius, if that's 12, and then we know that this portion right here is 45 degrees out of the entire circle, and we're asked to find what the area of this sector, this portion of the circle. Remember our steps. First off, total area. I'm going to put TA. Total area. Well, that's pi r squared, so pi r squared, well, that's just equal to pi times 12 squared, because the radius is 12, which is equal to 144 pi. Okay, so that's step one. Then, step two, what fraction of the whole thing are we dealing with? Well, it's 45 degrees out of a total of 360 degrees. I suppose we could simplify that a little bit. Let's see if I can do this. Oh gosh, I'm getting old. Hold on a second. Let me pull up my calculator. There it is. Let's see. I know we can divide both sides by 5. Actually, here. If I divide both sides by 5, that gets me to... You know what? I'm wasting time. You go ahead and, as an exercise for the listener, the watcher, the viewer, whatever, you simplify that. So whatever that might be. Okay. Then step 3 is take that fraction and multiply it by the whole. So 45 over 360, that times 144 pi. Okay? And, again, I'm going to use my calculator here. I don't know how this will simplify. Let me see. 45 times 144 is equal to that, divided by 360. Let's see what we get. We get 18. So the answer, the full answer for this is 18 pi. That would be the area of that segment of the circle. Okay? All right, so let's quickly clear that, and let's do the same thing with this question here. This is another classic example. Oh gosh, where is it? There it is. Okay, let's try this one. Radius is 6, and the measure of this angle here is 120. They want to know what's the length of the minor arc from A to B, meaning what is this portion of the circumference of this circle from A to B? Well, step 1, what's the total circumference? If the radius is 6, the formula for the total circumference is 2 pi r, which in this case, if we have a radius of 6, that's just 2 pi times 6, which would be equal to 12 pi. Okay, so that's step 1. Find the total. Step 2, what's our fraction? Well, in this case, our fraction is 120 out of 360, so that's 120 out of a total of 360 degrees. We simplify that, that's 1/3. Just check my math on that one. Okay? Then, third step, multiply the fraction times the total. 1/3 of, or times, 12 pi is equal to, again, check me, 4 pi. And that would be our answer. On the GRE, you would always leave the pi as pi. Don't, abbreviate it. I know that pi is approximately, roughly, 3.14, but you would, I hesitate to say always, but almost never. I've never personally ever encountered a case where I would need to convert the pi into 3.14. So I would just recommend just leave it go. When you're dealing with this sort of stuff, you're just focusing on the actual numbers, like 12 and 1/3. Okay? All right, so that's it for that. Let's do a couple of more complicated questions, but I'm going to save maybe some of those. Let's actually save that for the next video, and we will resume.